Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Sock Monkey Mike Show, where you're listening to passionate people have passionate conversations. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts now and on Spotify, which is still crazy to think in 2021 that I was able to do that. But if you could also listen to us on the road or at home if you don't want to watch the entire video. But if you want to watch the entire video, hey, all kudos to you. I appreciate that. Maybe while you're watching, hit that subscribe button and maybe hit that like button and maybe follow Mike Verna right here before I introduce him on all social media. The link will be down in the description below. But speaking about Mike Verna, this guest right here is truly the man of steel inside and outside the ring, whether he is a coach for his local baseball team, whether he is a loving father, or rather that be a trainer training at his local wrestling promotion. I mean, this man, when it comes to the Northeast wrestling scene, especially a Brooklynite native as himself, he's truly killing it. You may have seen him on AEW Dark 2, or Beyond Wrestling, or Chaotic Wrestling, or maybe even NXT a couple of years ago. This man has absolutely been killing it, with matches such as, recently, by the time of this recording, of Ricky Starks. Same thing goes with the debut of the Pretty Peter Avalon's Pageant Provocation, where he debuted the best song, in my opinion, of AEW Dark's theme song. So, ladies and gentlemen, enough of the preliminaries. The one, the only, the man of steel himself, Mike Verna. How are you, my friend?
Damn. I'm gonna leave now because that was the best introduction that you could possibly do. I'm not sure I can top that, but Mike, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to doing this. Once you reached out to me a couple weeks ago, I'm glad that we're finally sitting here live and in person and having this discussion. So first and foremost, thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. I mean, when I heard of Mike Verna and I saw you debut against Pretty Peter Avalon, it was truly something special because, of course, you had the theme song, which obviously caught my eye. A lot of people, when they come to me, they're like, Mike, why is the theme song the first thing that pops out to you? And it's like, that just impresses me. And then I, read on to more of your matches that you had on Beyond Wrestling. And then your appearance on AEW Dark. And of course, your appearance on NXT in 2018. I mean, the fact that you are truly the embodiment of the man of steel in professional wrestling is truly something special.
I appreciate that big time. I really do. And to touch on to that theme song, it's a first impression. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. We were talking off the air a little bit about how, I didn't realize the song until you actually sent it to me. And I said, oh, wow, that is kind of cool. But, a song it's your first impression. And one of the things early in my career, when people used to say, hey, what is the man of steel? And the first thing that people would say after they watched the match is they say, as soon as the opening chords of my indie theme song, not this theme song in AEW, but it does match because you had the same reaction. But they would hear the theme song and then they would see the Titantron and then they would see me walk out. And then as soon as that happens, they say, I got it. Not only do I got it, but I love it. So that was always my thing. It's like, yeah, I can sit there and say, well, I'm Superman of wrestling. Like, yeah, that's one thing I can do, but I want to be that representation of it. I want when the fans to see me, they turn around and say, oh, wow, like I really understand this character. I get this gimmick. And it's not just some kind of a cheesy catchphrase that he's trying to throw out there. I can actually resonate with this. I can invest in this. So that has been good. And I'm happy that you felt the same way seeing it because that means I did my job.
Yeah, and speaking about that theme song in the indies, I mean, Hail to the King by Avenged Sevenfold. I mean, when you truly want to get hyped, that's a song that you truly get hyped to.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's funny. Like we were talking about off the air, like my buddy had given that to me. So when I debuted back in 2013, I had no idea what my theme song was going to be. I didn't even know what the Man of Steel was going to be. I never really had any kind of like character ideology or what I was going to do. I was just kind of, living the dream, going little by little. I was just making sure I didn't shit the bed in my matches. I was just like, that's all that matters. And I asked my friend, I was like, what should be my theme song? I want something that when I come out over time, the fans will always sing it. They'll always react to it. And he said, give this one a shot. And it was Hail to the King, Avenged Sevenfold. When I heard it, I was in the gym. I was working out. I put it on. I said, oh, man, yes. I said, if I'm getting amped up here, I'll get even more amped up when I hear it behind the curtain. And that's to this day, whenever I'm able to perform on the indies and I hear that theme song, I mean, you get pumped up. And it's funny to get a little off topic. I did a Chaotic Wrestling studio taping last night where there's no fans. It's just matches that are out there for their Twitch stream. And it's still matches. It's a great experience, but it's very hard to get yourself psyched up because you don't hear the roar of the crowd. You don't hear your music. You don't hear anything like that. And it reminded me of I would think to myself, I was behind the curtain right before I went out and I said, just think of my theme song. And I was thinking of the theme song in my head, and I was just kind of envision it. And then when they said go out, boom, I was just, there's no music, but it's in my head,
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. Music and wrestling is such a big deal.
Oh, yeah. When you think about music and professional wrestling, obviously one of the biggest you have to think about happens to be Stone Cold's theme, The Rock's theme. If you want to go all the way back, you could say like Dusty Rhodes' theme, being The American Dream. There's so many songs out there, especially in professional wrestling, that really makes or breaks a star.
I couldn't agree more with that. I really, really couldn't agree more. And it shows a lot of people, like, when you're coming up in the indies, before you make it to the big stage, and your theme song is given to you, that thought process of what goes into, like, what's my song going to be? It has a lot to do with, your success or failure, for lack of a better word. I hope that your music won't define your career, but it's like we spoke about, it's your first impression. As soon as you hear that music, it's like you're either going to get the roar of the crowd, the boo of the crowd, and you just don't want this. Right. You want the high or the low. You want nothing in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's always that point. I mean, whenever some wrestlers who are very hated, like MJF or whatever the case may be, hear their music, they're like, oh, God, this guy again. Or it could be someone like Rich Swann back in the Indies who had, All Night Long by Lionel Richie playing. So, I mean, the song definitely has a great impact in professional wrestling.
Totally. It sets the tone. It sets the mood of the match.
Yeah, and speaking about the Man of Steel, one thing I did want to mention too is the fact that you do have the Man of Steel nickname. Of course, when people think about the Man of Steel, they think of Superman and all the great voice actors and the great actors that played the Superman part. Where did that nickname kind of stick out to you that you were like, I really want this to be my nickname?
So it's weird because like my theme song, I really had a hard time kind of like finding out what my name was going to be in wrestling. I knew that no matter what, I wanted to keep it Mike for obvious reasons. I'm sure you understand.
Right.
I didn't want to change my name. I said, I always felt weird. Like as an actor, when I'm a character, that's different. I can portray a character. I don't care what it is. But in wrestling, it's almost like a reality television show in a sense. You want to be you're yourself. You're your own brand. And I just wanted to really fully like invest in myself, and I wanted to be Mike. My real last name is Verna, so I didn't think of that. I didn't think of Verna yet. I just knew it wanted to be Mike. So when I was talking to one of my trainers, Joel Maximo of the SAT, and we were trying to come up with an idea, he was throwing all kinds of things out there. He was like, oh, Mike. First he said Ethan Chase, then he said Ethan Fox, then he said Mike Fox, then he said Mike Chase. I'm like, what is the fascination of Fox and Chase? I was like, it's not working. It's not working for me. He even went, above and beyond here, and he said, you kind of have a similar build to Chris Benoit. Let's call you Mike Benoit. I said, oh, you want my career to succeed or fail? I think you want us to work or not? And then I eventually said, look, when I played baseball, they used to call me Verna. It was just a short nickname. So I said, let's drop the TA. Let's make it one syllable. Cena, Austin, Rock, all these things are one angle. They're all one syllables, I think. Maybe not, but you know what I mean. They're very quick to say. So I said, let's roll with Verna. I'm full. I love it because it's me. It's Mike Verna. It's something that I can fully commit to. I can attach myself to. I can invest myself to. And I said, let's see the moniker. So I remember we had a buddy of mine who used to manage me back in the day. He said, why don't you do trademark Mike Verna? First, he wanted to be trademark Mike Taverna, which is a play on words, the TM and the MT. So he was thinking of a logo, like, MT, right. TM, just a branding thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. Once I committed to Mike Verna, the trademark idea went out the window. So now I'm like, what am I going to be? So I was training one day, and it was about 95 degrees out. And my hair was kind of wet from sweat, and I kind of just had this little curl kind of forward in front of my face. And at that particular time, I was wearing a Superman tank top. So, Joel looks at me and he goes, why don't you call yourself Superman? And I'm like, Superman Mike Verna? And I was like, no. I was like, what about the Man of Steel Mike Verna? Ooh. And then everyone was like, oh shit. So I went home that night. I thought about it. And from this day, that's what I've been. And it's funny too, because, people say, the character is it's really an extension of myself. I try not to be too over the top, try to be the superhero. I'm not the Hurricane. Let's put it that way. As great as that character was, that was a specific take on a superhero. Mine is, I'm not trying to be a superhero. I'm just trying to be like how Chuck Liddell is the Iceman. I'm just happen to be Mike Verna, the Man of Steel. It's funny because my style and the charisma, the personality, it all kind of formed into Superman without me trying. It just kind of came through the fans, through the move set, through what I did. I'm like, I'm doing all these power moves. I'm doing all these high risk fly moves. I'm like, that's freaking Superman right there. And I've been a good guy pretty much all my career. I've been a babyface, and I've never kind of like looked back. I mean, obviously I played heel at certain situations, but as a babyface, it's like, it's Superman. How can he be a bad guy? And it was a perfect storm of a perfect character for me. That being said, I'm very open, to the powers that be over there in Jacksonville. If they decide that one day they want to go a different route, I am open to that. But for now, the Man of Steel, Mike Verna, is here to stay.
And like you said, he is here to stay. Just the fact that you're kind of embracing this Man of Steel persona just on a worldwide platform like AEW Dark, you really feel proud of that.
Totally. That's the thing too. It's like one of the things that one of the roster members told me over there. I said, like, we don't have anything like you. He's like, you come out, and I was like, what, a cheesy superhero? He goes, no. He's like, it's not that. He's like, you look a certain way, you present yourself a certain way, and the roster is so diverse over there, from different body types, different genders. Everyone's, the way everyone is just so different at AEW, and I think that's such a beautiful thing about it. Mm-hmm. And then you like throw this white meat babyface Superman like right in the mix of it, and it's like, a professional wrestling company with so much diversity and so much different character choices, from a dinosaur to a rich, spoiled kid, to Team Taz. And then there's no Superman. It's like, and there I am. I'm just like, wow, there's the superhero. So it's like a weird, perfect puzzle piece that kind of just fits into this company that has so many different great personalities and great characters and great performers on their roster. And it's good. And I really do love it. Sometimes it's hard because you look at Twitter and you look at your reviews, and like some people don't get the character. Some people rather, oh, I wish Mike Verna was just this tough guy who beats people up. That's my heel character. That's what I do. I'm a Brooklyn guy. I'll beat you up when I'm heel. But there are elements to the Man of Steel where I try to, be attracted. I try to attract all of the demographics. So there'll be matches where, I beat someone up and I hop the guardrail and I go to the bar and I chug a beer. So I try to attract like the college guys or the men. And then, I'll walk out and I'll see an old lady in the front crowd and I'll kiss her hand, pre-COVID, of course. All that stuff. I'll see a baby there. I'll bring the baby in the ring. I try to be like a little bit of everything so that, the males don't say, oh, this guy's John Cena corny. And then, the moms and the kids don't say, oh, this guy's too, crazy and derogatory for me to like him. So that's always been my goal. So I'm happy that, you can kind of see that on a big scale and say, okay, he's really representing what he says he is.
Yeah, and having all those elements too of being, kind of connected to the audience of all demographics, like you mentioned before, just be of the old time wrestling fans, if we're talking the 50 and up club, or you're talking about the children, or also talking about the teens or the adult wrestling fans, as they say. Just having that appeal to all demographics is truly something special.
Oh, totally. And I think that's how you succeed ultimately in this business right now. Like, there's so many outlets and so many varieties of how you can kind of display yourself, whether it's social media, whether it's streaming platforms, whether it's national television, that there are so many ways to watch wrestling, even during this pandemic. Like I said earlier, you have companies that are throwing out these studio tapings. Like, it's not how it used to be, which sucks, but there is still content out there and there's a constant need for wrestling. And, you have that ability where you can either sink or swim. You can put yourself into a situation where it's like, I'm going to make sure everyone likes me or hates me for that matter, or I'm not. And if they don't care about you, then you won't succeed. And that's always been kind of like, the end all be all when it comes to wrestling is if you can get over, good or bad, you can be fine.
Right. And speaking about the pandemic era of professional wrestling, I feel like that AEW really does a good job of having their talent kind of at ringside. And of course, they do allow some fans, but they're all the way in the nosebleeds. But as a talent yourself, does it have that kind of old feeling again, having your peers out there? Or does it still feel like, man, like I wish it was fully packed?
No doubt in my mind, I wish that it was fully packed. I mean, that is what we do. Wrestling is a sport that is surrounded around entertainment. As entertainers, we need a crowd to entertain. You know what I'm saying? As a baseball coach, a college baseball coach, my players are made to win. You know what I'm saying? In professional wrestling, I'm made to win or lose, but I'm made to entertain. And I need to entertain the crowd because that's what we feed off of. What people don't realize sometimes, and I know they do, but sometimes they don't, is that what we do really, really hurts. Really hurts. And that roar of the crowd and that crowd engagement is what kind of gets us through those matches. You're in that 15-minute and your neck's a little bothered already and your arm doesn't really work that well. As soon as you start hearing them chant your name or boo your name for that matter, you get that second wind and the adrenaline spike hits up and you can go another 15. And that's the great thing about it. But without the crowd, and thank God for AEW with this, because you have your peers and your colleagues at ringside. They only want to see you succeed. They only want to see you succeed. So they're going to fully invest their time, their effort into trying to get you as hyped up as possible during the match. And it works to an extent. To an extent, it works. But there are some times at dark when we're filming and, it's late in the night or it's after Dynamite, so it is late in the night. And, the crowd is a little bit lighter. And then you just got to kind of power through it. And it makes you, you're a professional, so you're going to get it done. But it makes you miss those days of laying down on a bump and looking up at the Daly's Place rafters and it's completely empty and you're just like, it'd be really nice if you had your 5,000 people in there, like it could fit,
I mean, of course, but with the times you have to do what you have to do. And like I mentioned before, I feel like that they're doing great with the resources that they have at the time. But speaking about Mike Verna, not only a professional wrestler, but also a hero outside the ring. I'm talking about as a leader in the college baseball world. I do want to talk about that for a little bit. When did that opportunity come for you of guiding these college athletes, just to lead them to a better path?
For sure. I appreciate that because that is a big passion in my life. Baseball, I love it. I hope I never have to leave the game. No matter how successful I may get in the ring, I'd never want to leave the diamond. But it started actually, that's how my wrestling career started. My senior year of high school, I had a few offers on the table to play college baseball. I knew that I was never going to be a pro baseball player. I was good. I'm very happy I was good. I was very happy that I was able to be good enough to play college baseball. But I turned around and I said, I think I want to be a wrestler. And I remember fighting that battle with myself where I said, do I want to give up? I have a tattoo on my arm that says the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, which is a quote from the Bronx Tale, which is one of my acting coaches, Charles Palminteri. So it means a lot to me, that quote right there. And I remember fighting that with myself back then. I said, do I want to give up baseball and waste what I have in baseball just to pursue this wrestling dream / fantasy that I don't even know if I could succeed in? And, I just kept thinking about it. And my gut kept telling me, just be a kid, go to college, and don't have that. This sounds terrible here because I hate telling this story to my kids because I don't want them to say, hey, give up on baseball, be lazy, be a kid, go party. But that's how I felt at the time. So there was a bit of honesty that comes with it. It's just, I just felt I spent 4 years busting my ass in high school to be a good baseball player. I worked my ass off to get these college offers. And then for some reason, I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like I wanted to do it. And as soon as you feel like you don't want to do something, which is crazy because hindsight, I want to be around baseball 24/7 now. But back then, I wanted to be, an 18-year-old kid. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to kind of just do myself. I didn't want the commitment of what a college athlete brings to the table. And it's 100% commitment. And then I had this wrestling fantasy in the back of my head. I remember my senior trip, my after prom senior year, all the shenanigans and drinking and all that was going on. Sorry to say. I remember just having a full nostalgia drunken conversation about wrestling. And I was out of wrestling at that time. I didn't watch it. I didn't care about it. And it just spiked that interest in me. And once I had that conversation, I said, that's my decision. For some reason, this is meant to be. I don't know why I'm drunkenly talking about wrestling right now, and I'm getting giddy. I'm getting butterflies in my stomach talking about it. And I said, that was my decision. So I notified the 2 colleges that I was talking to, and I said, look, I'm not going to play. I'm going to go on and just worry about academics. And if I decide that I want to play in my sophomore year, we'll reassess this conversation. So I went over to my high school coach and I told him what happened. And he said, what? And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And he said, okay, do you want to coach here? And I said, what? He's like, do you want to coach at the high school? And I said, yeah, I do. And that was like, everything came full circle because I turned around and I said, I left the game that I love so much to pursue a dream. And I knew that I was going to miss being around the game. And as soon as my old high school coach offered me the job to coach, I was like, this is, the heavens telling me this is the road you have to take because everything happened for a reason. And so I coached at my old high school for about 9 years while balancing the professional wrestling training and early career. And 2 years ago, I got offered a job at a college as a college coach. So I put the work in at high school, and I moved up the ranks to a college coach now in Brooklyn. So I've been doing that for 2 years. Unfortunately, we still don't know if we're going to have a season this year under the circumstances, but my fingers are crossed. We'll hope for the best. But I love it, man. I love coaching. I love being a mentor. I love having the opportunity to kind of, like you said, mold young athletes and kind of lead them in that right direction. And selfishly, I love baseball. I love being around that game. I love the game. As a coach, I love being in the dugout and coming up with strategies. And what are we going to do? That's a rush of its own. I miss being on the field, but hey, that's what Sunday morning softball is for. So I still get to play. I still get to enjoy it, but at a much more relaxed yet competitive level.
Yeah, and just having that love for baseball. I'm truly a baseball fan myself, coming from a baseball family. We love the Dodgers. I'm sorry. But
hey, it started in Brooklyn, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, of course, having that love for baseball, regardless, no matter what team that you love, it's truly something special. By the way, by the time of this recording, I do want to shout out Tommy Lasorda, who did pass away recently. Truly the best in the game, especially cussing out another coach or an umpire in a live television broadcast. But just having that love for the game, man. I mean, it's truly like it's within you. It's truly within your heart.
Like you saying that, like it brings chills up my arm, because back in the day when I was playing, I looked at wrestling as a passion and baseball as a job. Now, as much as I love wrestling is my job, baseball is my passion. I can't speak highly enough about it. Like I love the game. I can watch it 24/7. I can listen about it 24/7. It's the best game in the world. It's the greatest game in the world. And I love when I meet other wrestlers and we can get to a locker room, we can just talk about, fantasy baseball or talk about trades or what's going on in the season. It's such an escape from the reality of the grind of wrestling. And I'm happy that it's there,
Yeah, it's always great that it's there. One thing I am curious about, too, is that as a Brooklynite yourself, you are proud of your Brooklyn heritage. A lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people that have come from the New York area that's originated their careers and it was born actually in New York. How do you feel being a part of that group, of just being a part of that New York wrestling scene, whether that's just primarily in Brooklyn, people like Danny Limelight came out of Brooklyn, or, just people that came out of other areas, such as, Daniel Garcia, who's come out of the Buffalo area, same thing with the Butcher and the Blade, and people like Bear Country, who are close friends of yours.
Yeah, for sure. New York, when I came up early in 2013, 2014, New York was a hotbed for wrestling. I mean, the whole tri-state area, really New York, New Jersey, it was just banging. CZW, NYWC, Creative Pro was just getting started, Wrestle Pro, which used to be PWS. I mean, you had so many good companies. Fighting Spirit Wrestling, where I originated from. It was just such a hot, and House of Glory, I can't leave them out. House of Glory is elite right now. Everyone was just putting on banging shows. I mean, the competition was rough. Like, you had so much feuds within companies. You couldn't work here. You couldn't work there, just because the scene was so fiery. And they've produced so much good talent between NYWC, House of Glory, Creative Pro, at least in the New York City, Long Island areas. I mean, you've created so many stars. MJF, myself, Bear Country, VSK, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens. I mean, all these guys I came up with, you know what I'm saying? These are guys that I grew up with. Now that I'm sharing a locker room with AEW with, it's like a coming to Jesus moment. Like, what's going on here? We finally did it. We finally got to where we want to be. But yeah, I'm so proud of the scene. It sucks now because with the New York Commission and all that stuff, wrestling is so hard to run. Especially in the city and Long Island as well. It's so hard to run a show in New York, regardless of the pandemic or not. I mean, it's so much resources, so much money that had to go into, just all the bells and whistles of the commission before you even pay talent. So it's so hard to really get behind a company right now. I would love to get behind one, but it's hard to really see a company flourish with the rules of the commission in New York in present day.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the commission, though, I mean, it's still cool to see that there's still wrestling coming around, especially during a pandemic. I mean, there's three guarantees in life. Of course, death, taxes, and wrestling still going to be there.
Oh, boy. That's for sure. And it's tough because you see these studio taping shows, and you see these no live audience shows, and then you kind of wonder, like in the beginning, I remember I didn't wrestle. My first match back my last match was March 27th or something like that. My first match back was September 20th. So I would say that's about a 6 months, 5-6 month gap of nothing. And I wasn't in a ring. I wasn't doing anything. So I was I was like an out of shape dude playing video games and drinking White Claws most of the nights during that pandemic. And, you didn't know what the future of wrestling was going to be. You really had no idea. And I still don't know. I still really don't know what the state of the indies will be, when everything gets back to normal. But just I was fortunate enough, the first couple of shows in September I worked, it was outdoors. So I did have a little bit of a live crowd. So I did get that itch back of like, okay, it may not be a lot of people, but if there's 75 people in an outdoor arena within the circumstances of what they can hold, I can get by this. I'm starting to enjoy it. I can feel that rush again. And then we got to the studio tapings, and it was like a reality check, because now it was like, wow, there's no crowds. And now you feel like you're doing practice matches again. And like I said earlier, you kind of have to gauge this, mental click to kind of get you to performance mode and performance level. And as professionals, you're going to do it no matter what, and you're going to have a great time. But like I said, it hurts more. It's a little bit harder to get through and all that stuff. But, to cap that off, the best thing about it is at the end of the day, we are still providing wrestling for the fans. And that's what it comes down to, is because, you can watch Raw, you can watch SmackDown, you can watch Dynamite, you can watch Dark, you can watch everything, Impact, everything under the sun. But at the end of the day, diehard wrestling fans, they want more. It's like, as a baseball fan, I'm looking at, the minor league system. I'm looking at the draft picks. I'm looking at college athletes. Who are these guys that are going to be future Mets one day? Wrestling fans, they want that too. They say, who are the stars of tomorrow? They want to look at the indies. They want content. And I think it's great that, we could still provide some sort of content for these fans during this terrible era.
I mean, regardless if it's a terrible era, I mean, we're still thankful that sports are still going on. As a Brooklynite yourself, I'm actually curious, because over here in the California area, we do have the rivalries of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Los Angeles Angels, or the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. Of course, you're a huge Mets fan, but that Mets-Yankees rivalry, how intense is it for you to be a part of that rivalry as a fan?
When I was younger, and mind you, this is still my feelings to this day. I just try to be a little bit more mature about it. I hate the Yankees. I hate them. I really do. Like, I am in such awe right now and excitement that the Mets have Steve Cohen as their manager, as their owner. And we made a big trade the other day for Francisco Lindor and Cookie Carrasco. And the Yankees are sitting there worrying about counting pennies for DJ LeMahieu, who wants to leave them. So I'm loving it. I'm just sitting back. I'm like, all these years of torture. That being said, as a pure baseball fan, no one can ever deny the success of the Yankees franchise.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I hate them. So it is what it is. I respect them. I respect a lot of their players in the past, but I love to cheer against them. I love that my team is on the uprise, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'm ready to take over New York. Move over, Steinbrenner. Uncle Stevie Cohen's here.
Yeah, and we cannot wait for that Mets, World Series appearance happening soon. Of course, once we pass the Dodgers.
I was say, you got your fix last year. Pass over some of that good luck towards us.
Yeah, and speaking about one thing, I'm actually curious about too. Of course, you were trained under one Alex Reynolds, and of course Tony Nese and Mikey Whipwreck. Just having those three names in particular, who have been huge in the professional wrestling scene, with of course Mikey Whipwreck in ECW, Tony Nese in 205, and of course the independent scene, and of course Alex Reynolds, who was a part of the Dark Order. Just having those three names, being trained under them, like, what was that kind of experience like for you?
I can't thank all of my trainers enough. So just to give you like a quick crash course of it, so I don't go give you the whole list of it. I started at NYWC back in 2011. I had to take a mini break because of work, straight up. I was 18 years old. I was offered a nice job at GNC. I saw money and I said, it's crazy too, because we spoke about giving up baseball for this wrestling dream. And then when an 18-year-old kid is offered a decent paying job at 18, all of a sudden it's like, screw the dream, give me the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's such a weird, like, it's funny because like as a 29-year-old man now, I look back 10 years, I'm like, damn, like, things were so different then. Like, I didn't give a shit about nothing. I saw money, $12 an hour at the time is what I'm talking about, mind you. So it's nothing that's going to live. But at 18 years old, you're like, oh yeah, $12 an hour. Hell yeah, give it to me. You know, you just give everything up. You think you're going to freaking drive a Benz in a week or so. You just don't know. You're so naive and wet behind the ears. But I took that job in NYWC's out in Deer Park, Long Island, which is the suburbs of New York. I'm in the city. So it's about 2 hours away, give or take. So it wasn't easy to balance school, the job, and wrestling. So I had to give that up for a little bit. And I eventually met Joel Maximo, who was my finishing coach back in 2013 before I debuted, or the end of 2012, whatever it is. So I took about a 7-month to a year break in between my initial training to my finishing training. So those first initial years was Tony, Alex, and Mikey was like the overseer of the school. So I was really more hands-on with Tony and Alex. And before I got to Joel, if I did not have those two guys being my introductory trainers and my basic trainers, I would have been lost, because Joel was a finishing coach for me. Joel took a polished wrestler and made it a star. You know, he taught you brain busters and tilt-a-whirl head scissors and swanton bombs and moonsaults, where Tony and Alex, they taught me how to work. They taught me what a bump was, what a roll was, what the etiquette of the business is. And that's the thing. Like, I used to look back and I said, even Johnny Silver was a member of NYWC at that particular time too. He wasn't a trainer, but he was one of the helpers because he was an experienced guy. So, you know, those three guys, they would be tough. You know, they would be tough on you. And I look back now and I tell Alex all the time, whenever I see him, I was like, Alex, like I'd laugh. I'd be like, hey, Alex, that loss right there, that's because of you. That's because you trained me. You didn't train me good enough, you know? So we have fun. We have fun with that. But really, like, they really, you know, they teach you the etiquette of the business. They teach you the basics. Like, that's the stuff that a lot of wrestlers now, they lack. They lack that basic professional wrestling etiquette. And if it wasn't for Tony, Alex, Johnny, Mikey, everyone from NYWC, and of course, Joel, like, I feel like I wouldn't be as successful as I am today, because I respect the business. I really, really respect the traditions of the business. And I would never spit in the face of the people who paved the way before it. Where now it's like, so you go to some schools, and they'll find a guy that can sell, 50 tickets at a show, and they'll just put him in the ring in the second week. Where NYWC, I did not see the ring for 7 months. Wow. I did not step foot in the ring for 7 months. And at the time, I hated it. But I look back at it now and I say, Alex, bro, that was one of the best things you ever did. Because as soon as you step through the ropes, you realize, okay, this is where I wanted to be. You know, this is the rush you were looking for. And the fact that you couldn't even get close to that ring in the beginning, it was just like, you want to work to get there. And I love that aspect of my training career. But, being around all those names, Joel, Tony, Alex, Mikey, Johnny, I mean, I can't thank them enough.
Yeah, and just being under the tutelage of all those who are currently stars in WWE and AEW, and truly, really appreciating the art of professional wrestling, because a lot of the times they're like, man, I'm gonna train for like 2 months, and then I'm like gonna definitely be in the main event. Like it's
100%. Like that. I didn't want to cut you off there, but I had to, because that's that's the mentality that some people have, where it's like, 2021 wrestling, or let's say 2019 wrestling, pre-pandemic, it's like you would meet some of these kids that are like, 2 days into training, and like, yeah, I'm talking about debuting next month. Like, debuting? What? Like, what do you want to lock up? Tell me what a lockup feels like. And I'm just like, wow. Like, but you look back at what I went through, almost 10 years ago. And it's like, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. We're going to get trained right. We're going to learn this business, and we're going to do what we got to do.
There's always this one saying from this one wrestler who happens to be in the NWA, current or former WWE star. His name is Mike Kanellis, aka Mike Bennett, who values this one saying, which it really sticks to me. It's process over outcome. And I always say that a lot because it's true. It's always about the process. That 7 months, that 12 months of training, really, you value it once you get to the top.
It's funny you say that what is it? It's outcome over, what was it?
Process over outcome.
So, I had my WWE tryout in 2017. And when I tell you I had a great tryout, I'm not just saying that to say that. I would tell you if I shit the bed. I had an awesome tryout. I got rave reviews from the coaches, and things were looking good there. And I got something that's called a not yet, which means like stay in the loop. We need you to do this, that, and the other thing, and then we'll revisit this contract offer 6 months, a year late, whatever it may be. And I remember I really got close to Steve Carino, because we're two baseball fans. He would make fun of me for being a Met fan. I'd make fun of him for being a Philly fan. And we really clicked that weekend. And I remember when I got that call from Canyon, the people at WWE, I texted Steve, and I'm like, Steve, so like, what can you give me? And he said, trust the process. And I said, at the time, you're a little sour because you feel like you trained hard for it, you worked hard for it, you thought you did good, but you didn't get the results you wanted. And he said, trust the process. And that really sat with me because I turn around now and I look at it like if I didn't trust the process, I might have not been in the situation that I am now, because over time from that 2017 to now, I've had opportunities to go back. As you saw, I was at NXT in 2018, and something in my gut, very similar to the feeling I had with baseball back in the day, something in my gut said, don't pursue this yet. And I'm not saying they wanted me. I'm not saying that they were knocking on my door, but I'm saying, as a wrestler who has experience with them, who has a name on the indies, you have a little leverage to go talk to them. You have they're very accessible over there at WWE. You can email Regal, you can email the people that matter, and you can open up a conversation. But something in my heart, I was like, I don't think that's the right place right now. And then all of a sudden AEW opened. And then I said to myself, I said, that's where I want to go. And, I went to the first 2 tapings of Dynamite back in October 2019 as an invite. And I spoke to the people there. And I remember talking to Cody, and Cody's like, yeah, man, like, you can do whatever you want outside of Dynamite. Like, we're not going to tell you not to do movies. We're not going to tell you not to coach. We're not going to tell you not to go to school. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is such music to my ears. Like, because I had so much other passions at that time. From when I did NXT to the tryout, like, I started getting into acting, which came out of nowhere. And I started getting work. I started getting paid well. I started developing a passion for acting. And I turned around and was like, I'm not ready to give that up. If I work a commercial and I make a certain amount of money in one day, like, that might be a quarter of what I'm making a year with an entry level wrestling contract. I'm like, there's no reason to give that up for one day's of work, So I'm sitting there, and you're in LA, so I can imagine you understand how it is over there.
Oh yeah.
So you see where I'm coming from. So there was just all these conflicting things in my head where I'm like, something is telling me not yet. They said not yet, but something's telling me right now not yet. And it all worked out in the long run. I'm really happy where I am right now. I hope it goes forward and it becomes something more permanent over at AEW, and then we kind of see where we go from there. But I'm just happy the steps I took. I'm happy about trusting the process, like you said. And I think that's a great quote, and that's a great outlook in all professions.
Yeah, I mean, and truly during a time of a pandemic where, you really have those doubts and you have those times of like, man, like, do I really have to trust the process? Like, do I really have to do all this stuff? Yeah. And it's, just having that trust and just, having that strong, growth mindset for that. It's truly really like important because, of course, with these interviews, I've done these interviews for years now, trying to put out these, the content and the transcripts and all the process behind it. And then, now knowing that people are actually watching and listening, that just makes me appreciate the process more and just keep it going.
Absolutely. Like I said, when we first opened up this link here, and I said, oh, I like this setup. I like this a lot. It's like, even from your shoes, you sit there and you where you started to where you are now, like, that process is the key, man. You got to just gear in. And it goes back to what we were talking about, these these trainers, these wrestlers in training now, where they just kind of want the main event now. Like, trusting the process is the key. You got to be patient. You got to work hard. You got to kind of set the stones for yourself so you can make that bridge to success. And I'm happy the route that we both took, that's for sure. I'm happy that trusting the process is still something that's real in this day and age. And I look forward to the future with it. That mindset I believe will take me to where I want to be.
Yeah, and you always have to give that process a trust check sometimes. But not only that, but Mike Verna, like I mentioned before, early on in this interview, is not just a superhero inside the ring, but also outside the ring as well. And I'm also talking about being a father. You are a family man. You are.
I'm a father. I'm an uncle.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, close enough. You know what it is? People see the commercial, Philadelphia, and they see the baby and they go, "That's your son." No, that's my nephew. That's my nephew. But you know what? He's my twin brother's son. So for the most part, he's got my genes. He's got my DNA. I treat him like a son. So good enough, close enough. But I do love the fact that you did mention one point, which is family. You mentioned that, and I am very family oriented. I think that has a lot to do with being Italian. That's what we do. It's all about family. It's all about being together. So I am very, very, lucky to have a support system like I have with my family. I'm lucky to have a good relationship with all of them. It's just, I can't speak highly enough of that because, if I didn't have them, I don't think I'd be a wrestler because, as I'm sure you've heard from many other wrestlers, wrestling doesn't pay early. You have to work hard to get paid to be a wrestler. And I worked a lot to be a wrestler. If I didn't have them, I might have had to hang it up, because you got to live, you got to make money, And luckily they supported my wrestling dream by taking care of my real life.
Well, of course. To me, of course, family is special. I always value my family every single day. Because they're really their biggest, your biggest supporters. They're really there to really help you, bring you up when you feel like you're shittiest.
Totally agree. That's the thing. Like, even when things are down, and even in this pandemic, like one of the biggest things that I tell a lot of my wrestling friends is, this pandemic, the only good thing about it is it really brought me back to what I was missing out on socially because of wrestling. Wrestling, you're on the road, you're traveling so much, your weekends are done, sometimes your weekdays are done. You don't really have that time to be with your friends and family. And this pandemic, like, once things became a little bit more socially acceptable and medically acceptable to kind of like have those small gatherings, I spent so much time with my friends that I really didn't get a chance to do over the last almost decade of my wrestling career, because I missed so many birthday parties, I've missed weddings, that shit that you hear from wrestling interviews where they go, oh, I've missed holidays and I've missed birthdays and I missed the birth of my kid. It's real. I tell you right now, it's real. You miss so many things, and it's crazy too, because you turn around and you're like, okay, do I do this show that's paying me this amount of money to miss my cousin's engagement party? And the cynical person in you is like, oh, I got to make the show. It's my responsibility. This person will never book me again. And it's just that crazy, professional mentality where it's like, I got to do it. But then you look at some of these once in a lifetime things that you're missing out on, and it does suck. It does suck. That's the good thing about the pandemic. Without wrestling, and kind of like it gave your body a recharge to heal, and it gave your body a mental recharge to kind of like just get that social fun that you've been missing, or that social connection and those relationships that you really haven't been fully involved with over the regular schedule of wrestling.
Yeah, and not only that, with the regular schedule of wrestling, of course, that's been very, very, very condensed. Well, compared to last year, maybe a little bit more free. But, now I think that, with things starting to come back up a little bit, even though things are going up and down, it really just kind of gives you that appreciation for more things than ever before.
Totally. That's really what it comes down to. I couldn't agree more with that. It's like, the moments and the times and the normal person thing. Sometimes I look back and I say, I was like, damn, by any means, no wrestler, unless you're The Rock or John Cena, is an A-list celebrity. We are celebrities in our own right. We're public figures in our own right. And you sit there and you say, you live this lifestyle, especially now with acting as well. Like you kind of get this red carpet lifestyle sometimes. And, those moments during quarantine when you're just kind of like having a couple of beers outside by a pool, those are the little things. Those are the things you love more than anything. You get to really appreciate, like you said, those relationships and those moments that you don't always have being on the road, or always kind of like in the spotlight, for lack of a better word.
Oh, yeah. And one thing I do want to mention from Mike Verna, the Man of Steel, is this great ring entrance, this great ring entrance gear that you do possess. When I'm talking about your 6-man tag team match alongside with Bear Country, where you did debut the cape and the Man of Steel attire. Can you talk to us about, was there a creative process behind it? Did you know some people that made it your dream a reality? What was it like for you?
For sure. So I want to give a shout out to Rockwell Mask, because Rockwell Mask is basically the company that produces a lot of entrance gear for a lot of wrestlers. And I remember years ago, I saw, I think Callahan and the Chris brothers and even Vinny Marsiglia from ROH, they were wearing these cool entrance masks. I think Vinny had a Jason Voorhees looking one, and I said, that is awesome. I was like, where did you get that? And he said, Rockwell. So I looked into them, and they were just doing masks at the time. And I reached out to him and I said, hey man, my character's a Man of Steel. I'm not going to need a mask. I was like, but can you make chest plates and stuff like that? And he's like, I've never done that, but I can try. So he made my first chest plate years ago. I'll actually show you it.
Oh, we're getting the exclusive, guys. Oh man.
I have it here, that's for sure. So he made this first one years ago.
Oh wow.
So this is more of it's kind of got the Scott Steiner chainmail on here, but it's more of a basic introductory thing. He's never done it, so I used to wear that. but it was a little hard because it was buckled up and it was really hard to take off, really hard to put on. And it didn't, I loved it at the time, but it didn't really like sell to me. And I reached back out to him a couple years later. I said, let's try to go back to the chest plate, but let's just add a freaking cape to it. Let's just make it let's just make it a thing. Like, let's do it. And he's like, I love the idea. Let's do it. So he came up with this sketch. He showed me the sketch. I said, that's it. I said, let's do it. That's great. So now I'm kind of in the process of, I'm getting new gear made. And once the new gear is made, I'll look at the color schemes for that. And then I'll kind of like send it over to him so he can send new colors for the cape and the M. Because I have right now, I think you'll see it on Dark as well, maybe this week. I'm pretty sure I wore it. Yeah, I think I wore it this week. So against Starks, you'll see the American flag style cape. So the American cape with the American trunks. So it's a little bit of flavor to it. You got to stay fresh, right?
Oh yeah, you got to stand out in any way possible.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, and what also is the key is that, Mike Verna, of course, killing it on not just the professional wrestling scene, but also, baseball, not only that, but acting. One thing I do want to mention about your acting career as well is that I actually talked to a wrestler / actor as well, and one Alex Chamberlain, who is also a kind of the East Coast scene wrestler as well, trained under Gangrel. One thing I do want to ask you is that, and this was a question I asked him, but I'll ask you this because it's a very interesting question that I'm actually curious about as well. Favorite line that you had to remember as an actor?
Oh, wow. Okay. It's very simple. It's very simple, but I did love, and it's not even hard to memorize. I just loved it when I do it. So as you could tell, I'm an Italian guy, I'm from Brooklyn. So I get a lot of roles that are like gangsters, like I'm a mafia guy. So I remember one line I had to do is, it was just like, fuck you, no, fuck me, no, fuck you. I remember we did it like 6 different times because the director loved every single take that I did of it. He's like, she would like be like, no, do it this way. And I would do it like, no, that's better. And then we just had 6, and I just loved doing it because it was just, you're in the moment, and I'm beating this guy up with a bat, and he says, fuck you, and I go, fuck me, no, fuck you, and I just keep hitting him. Sorry for that. but yeah, it's awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, having those lines, especially ones that you can memorize, truly something special because I can't memorize anything.
You know what's crazy, man? People say all the time, I'll get a script and I'll get a monologue that's 2 pages long and I can't remember it. And they'll be like, aren't you a wrestler? Can't you memorize 30-minute matches? I'm like, it's different. Like, you're moving and like all this kind of stuff, but it's crazy. I know memorization lines is not my forte. I'll tell you right now. I do a lot of ad-libbing and I'm thankful that the directors I work with are okay with it.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to mention as well when it comes to Mike Verna is just the fact that whatever the case may be, no matter what, acting wise or wrestling wise or sports wise, you could always make the best out of every situation.
Yes, that's really what I mean. If you can't make lemonade out of lemons, is that the catchphrase? Then what's the point? You're going to be a miserable person, and that's really what it comes down to. I really try to live like a happy-go-lucky life. I want everything to be the glass half full rather than glass half empty. And it's funny, my co-coach, my boss on the baseball field, he's the half empty guy. I'm the half full guy. And he always says, I need you to balance me out. He's like, I'm not feeling positive. I need you to balance me out. Give me something optimistic. So, that's it. You gotta always be positive with everything.
Yeah, positivity is key. I mean, especially during a pandemic, you always have to try to be positive with everything. I always try to go to the cemetery and visit my grandfather, try to get that kind of inner peace, especially when literally you turn this on and you're like, man, there's another thing on the news. Oh, that's great. But you know what? Aside from that, you always try to get the positive stuff. Thing.
For sure. Cell phones is the worst, the best and worst thing that's ever happened to anybody. Let's put it that way.
Oh man, well, Mike, I do want to thank you so much for the getting this conversation going, not being your typical interview, of course.
Oh, I had a blast. Whenever I do these podcasts, and I noticed that you have the timer up top. So whenever I do these podcasts, they some drag. And when I looked up at this timer, I said 48 minutes. I was like, what? I was like, I felt like I was here for 10. So thank you for having me, and thank you for being a really good host, because like I said, I'm sure you've heard this a bunch of times. Not all podcasts are easy to sit through as a guest. I hate to say that. I love being I love being involved in them, but some of them are just, they are what they are. And you really made this conversation easy. You made this conversation fun. Time flew by. Thank you for having me, and I definitely would come back.
Well, I do appreciate it. For those who don't know, you can follow Mike on all social medias. Link will be down in the description for the second time in this in this episode. But not only that, great matches so far in AEW Dark. By the time of this recording, you could actually check out his match against Absolute Ricky Starks, part of Team Taz. You always got to watch out for Hook because he's a young cat like myself. And not only that, but great matches, whether that's in 6-man tag team action, whether that was one-on-one against Pretty Peter Avalon, try to say that 1,000 times, in the Pretty Peter Avalon's pageant provocation. A lot of P's there.
I would never be able to say that, so good for you.
And but not only that, make sure you guys check out his acting stuff. Make sure you guys go check out his sports stuff as well. If you look up the Man of Steel, Mike Verna. Why was I gonna say Verna? Make sure you guys go check that. You can find it if you just search up Mike Verna on Google. So make sure you guys do that. And of course, it would be nice to check out my stuff, but I'm just here. I'm just me. It's about him. It's not me.
No, man, it's about him too. He did a hell of a job.
I do appreciate.
I hope those views, I hope those subscriptions, and I hope those listens go through the roof because I had fun being on the show, and I'm hoping this conversation is fun for people to listen to.
Well, I do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next interview.